Hey, we're back with Julia Ioffe. Julia, do you have a reaction to people, often on the right in the United States and many people on right-wing media who say, we've got no skin in this game? Like, why are we against Putin? Why would you dislike Putin? Why would you possibly pull for Ukraine? There's no difference between the two of them. We should have no involvement in this. That is just Eastern Europeans fighting Eastern Europeans, no concern of ours.
Well, I think there's two different strains. There are people who say that, and to them I would say that people like Putin, people like Kim Jong-un, they rarely stay within their borders. They always want to eat more. They're like a shark. You either swim or you sink. Mm-hmm. And, you know, now it's Ukraine. He might try to drag in the Baltics, which means we would have to get into a war with Russia because we're bound by obligation to defend Poland, for example.
That's the worst case scenario, is attacking a NATO country.
It's half of the worst case scenario.
That's only half a worst case?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What's the other half of the worst case?
The other half of the worst case, and this is really funny because I was talking to a person I know in Washington who is kind of the neocon persuasion, worked in the Bush administration on pushing for the Iraq War. And this person said, well, look, the good news is we also thought Iraq was going to be easy.
So they could get bogged down into a prolonged occupation of Ukraine.
Yeah, they get fooled by a shock and awe situation where they quickly decapitate the government, install a puppet regime, I don't know, arrest Zelensky, take him to Moscow and try him for war crimes, and then slowly an insurgency starts building. In fact, the U.S. has been helping Ukrainians train for this kind of scenario, teaching them the things that the U.S. learned in Iraq when it was fighting an insurgency. So we're teaching them kind of the soldier brigades methods. And then we could get dragged in with a NATO country. So
that's the full worst case scenario.
That's
only 2/3 of the worst case?
2/3.
What's the last third? Because you are, at heart, you're from Russia, you were born in Russia. This is your worst case scenario. See things as bad as you possibly can, Julia Ioffe. We can take it.
It's very hard for me, but I'll do it anyway. So I think the other part of it is that with all of this instability, you're already seeing people fleeing on foot from Ukraine across the border into Hungary, for example, or into Poland. And as we saw with the massive refugee flows from Syria 6 years ago, 5 years ago, which gave us Brexit, which gave us the rise of nationalist far-right parties all over Europe. And that was like 6 years ago. Europe is super saturated with refugees, and I don't know if they can handle another massive flow of refugees coming across their borders. What that would mean for them politically, would it push them even further to the right?
So what's the best case scenario? Do you have one of those?
I do, but I don't know if you'll think it's a best case scenario.
Do your best. It's a late night TV show.
Do you have any more of that bourbon?
I've got a whole bar back there. I've got vodka too.
Perfect. Oh, let's do shots. I think the best case scenario is, this sounds horrible, that they accomplish what they wanted in Ukraine, decapitate the government, install a puppet regime, withdraw without occupying it, and scare Ukrainians enough into not having another revolution to bring in a new democratic government for another few years and keep things calm that way.
That's your best case scenario? You've got there's
no
bright
I mean,
spot?
best case scenario is like Ukraine wins and drives them back, but that is the best case scenario.
What about this? What about no hope, huh? Okay, no hope. I was hoping for just a dollop, a little ray of sunshine.
I've been thinking hard about this. Your producers gave me some homework, and I think I've come up with something.
Yeah, what is it?
So I've been thinking about this and watching my friends freak out in Moscow about their government getting them into a war that they don't agree with and that they feel they are still culpable for. Watching Ukrainians fight back the way they have been. And these are people who don't have as much experience with democracy as we do. Russians, especially Russians of my generation, have barely ever experienced it, really haven't. The Ukrainians have had it for a couple decades. And look how hard they're fighting for it. And I think we tend to take it for granted and be complacent, and we're complacent about it. That's why we were surprised by January 6th. That's why we were surprised by Trump. And if it teaches us anything, I think it's that democracy is work. It's vigilance. It's being educated. It's being a savvy consumer of media. It's voting. It's paying attention. And
a cautionary tale.
yeah, and like we already have it. We just have to make it better. We already have it. We've had it for hundreds of years. All we have to do is keep it and make it better. These guys are starting from scratch.
As Jefferson said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance.
Yeah.
And this is a cautionary tale for us.
Yes.
Well, Julia, thank you for all the cheer. You can read her articles at puck.news. Julia Ioffe, everybody.